On today's episode, I speak with Martin Schmidt, who is a founding partner for Postera Capital, to learn more about Europe's first regulated crypto fund. Hello and welcome to Dash Insights, a show that shines a spotlight on professional market analysis from industry experts and respected leaders in finance and cryptocurrency. Postera Capital is a professional advisory firm based in Düsseldorf, Germany, that focuses on investment opportunities in blockchain and crypto assets. Their investment services support professional investors to gain access to the new and dynamic asset class of crypto assets. Postera Capital is the promoter of the first EU regulated investment fund that invests in crypto assets. Let's now talk to Martin to learn more. Thanks, Martin, for joining me today.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me.
What digital assets does the crypto fund currently hold, and does the investment portfolio include Dash?
So the Postera fund currently has an investable universe of around 15 crypto assets. Those include the large ones, Bitcoin, obviously, Ether, also things like Bitcoin Cash, other large assets, and also some, I guess, what you would call altcoins, including Dash. So when we started the fund in 2018, we started with 5 assets, and we've increased the investable universe in 2 steps. And since last fall, that also includes Dash.
Can you tell me more about the fund's investment strategy? How do you decide which crypto assets to invest in?
So first of all, it's a pure crypto fund. So the fund holds only crypto assets, coins, tokens, whatever you want to call it, but not venture capital, not stocks, but only crypto assets and actually cash, so US dollar or euro. So that's the first thing. It's a pure play crypto fund. Secondly, it's long only, so we don't do derivatives, we don't go short. The main strategy of the fund is really to invest in the asset class, to hold a portfolio of crypto assets, balance that with cash, but primarily the purpose is to give people exposure to the asset class, crypto assets. So there are a number of criteria that crypto assets need to fulfill to be considered for the fund. So some are rather technical. So we do need a minimum market cap of around 100 million US dollars because we do need the liquidity of the assets. We also need the assets to be listed on some of the large exchanges, at least 2, so that there is sufficient liquidity to get in and out of the assets. And other than that, it's very much a discretionary fund where we look at the assets. We give recommendations, and primarily we look at use cases. Is the coin, is the token, does it have a use case? Is it useful for people? And can there be expected to be value appreciation? And based on that, we construct the portfolio.
How does the crypto fund manage risk with market volatility when making crypto asset investment decisions?
So as I mentioned before, there is a cash quota. So the fund does hold a portion of cash, and in times of increased volatility, that portion of cash, or that allocation of cash, that can be increased. So that's really the way that volatility or risk is managed in the fund. Secondly, obviously, it's a portfolio. So unlike just holding 1 asset, 2 assets, 3 assets, the fund does hold a large number of assets, which gives some diversification within the asset class. Now, having said that, what we see in crypto as well as in other asset classes as well is that when volatility goes up, typically correlation goes up. So that's a thing to be aware of, that diversification is a benefit within the asset class, but only to a degree. So what we always say is to people that they need to be fairly comfortable with the volatility of crypto. So it is a volatile asset class. It's a long-only fund, so while the volatility compared to the overall market is somewhat lower, in the fund, it is still fairly volatile. Right? But then again, in a portfolio context, if you invest 1%, 3%, 5% of your portfolio in crypto, that sort of balances out. Also, I think what's important for people investing in the fund is, we don't recommend putting 20, 30, 40, 50% of your net worth into the fund, but really it should be a small allocation of the overall portfolio typically.
Can you explain the tax benefits and how the fund's weekly liquidity allows professional investors to manage their exposure to the crypto asset class?
Sure. Within the fund, it's fairly simple. There are no taxes, which is a great benefit. So if assets are rebalanced within the fund, there is no negative tax effect on that. So, if you compare that to someone holding crypto assets directly, it depends obviously to a large degree on the jurisdiction, on the personal tax situation, but in many jurisdictions, typically if you buy and sell assets, then on the sale of the assets, including the crypto assets, there is a capital gain tax. This is true for Germany, at least if you buy and sell within the time frame of a year, and this is true for many other jurisdictions as well. Compared to that, for many investors, it's beneficial to invest via a fund because there is no taxation on the reallocation within the fund. But only if you then sell shares of the fund, then there is a tax consequence of that. Having said that, obviously this is not tax advice. It very much depends on the individual tax situation of the investor and the jurisdiction that he or she is in.
Can you explain the process of how the fund is able to invest in crypto assets, including Dash? I had a look at your investment prospectus and I saw that Bank Frick was involved. How is it structured? How are you able to do this?
Okay, sure. So the structure, first of all, since it's a regulated fund, is to a large degree dictated by the regulation. So it's an alternative investment fund. And what you need to have in an alternative investment fund that's regulated as a Postera fund is a sort of separation of duties, so that the risk is balanced and shared between parties. So it's a system of checks and balances. So there is an administrator of the fund, which is IFM, which is a company based in Liechtenstein as well. And they sort of, as the name suggests, they administer the fund. When you get your net asset value weekly, that's calculated by the administrator. So we don't do that. We don't touch any cash. We're not involved in valuing the assets. That's done by that neutral party. Then there is the custodian, which is Bank Frick, which is responsible for holding and really safekeeping the assets. And they are experts in that. They are specialized on crypto, on blockchain, so they have all the technical but also capabilities, but also the process in place to do that safely. And then there is an asset manager, which is also a Liechtenstein entity, Quarus, which is advised by us and executes the reallocation of assets. So they also involved in pre-trade, post-trade compliance. So it's a fairly elaborate system of checks and balances, which all really have one purpose, to protect the investor and to make sure that the assets don't go missing and valuations are right and so on.
With so much market uncertainty due to COVID-19, is the emergency economic stimulus from central banks worldwide a reason for professional investors to be bullish on crypto?
I think yes and no. So I think in the long term, very much yes. I think, and this is me speaking as someone who's also involved in the crypto community, I think the short-term effects are somewhat overestimated by many people in the crypto community. If you look at professional investors, asset managers, I think what the current crisis does is it opens people's minds to other asset classes, to new developments like crypto. So I think there is a willingness that's increasing to look at crypto. I think, and this is my experience also from talking to many professional investors and asset managers during the last years, that you shouldn't underestimate the time frame that it takes from being interested to actually investing. That's a very long cycle for most professional investors and asset managers. So I think what we're seeing now is an increased interest by many people in the institutional space. I think it will take some time to really translate into assets under management in big institutional portfolios. But I think that it's a matter of time. So short term, be patient. But I think now is the time that many people are actually really getting into crypto seriously.
How important is it for the crypto industry to bridge the gap with traditional finance?
I personally think very important. And this was the reason why we chose to set up a fund in the first place, and also why we chose structure that is regulated, which is more work, which is more complicated, which is, also frankly speaking, it's harder to explain to some people. But I think bridging the gap is important. So that first step for people from becoming interested in crypto and maybe reading about it in the paper to really investing, putting the first euro in. I think that's a very important step. And most professional investors, the big money will only come if the industry is professionalized. And that doesn't mean, you can't keep your own keys. That doesn't mean you shouldn't self-custody and so on. I think all of those things are great, and we should promote that. But a lot of people will still want to bridge into this new asset class, and anything that makes it easy, I think, is good.
Thank you, Martin, for taking the time to talk with me today.
Well, thank you, Mark. Pleasure.
I hope you have enjoyed the interview today with Martin Schmidt from Postera Capital. For more market insights and analysis from leading industry professionals in finance and cryptocurrency, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell to be alerted about future video content. Until next time, take care.